So welcome everyone. I'm just going to talk while people are joining. So you'll see our introduction slide in a moment, but this is Athena Hepner speaking to you. And I just want to say I'm so glad everyone has made it through the week. It's been a wonderful but long week, I think, for many of us. And as you join, I'm just thinking back to the yoga sessions I attended. They were absolutely wonderful. They did wonders for my neck. So as you join and you're waiting for us to officially get going, maybe take a moment to actually stand up and stretch to the left, stretch to the right. Inhale deeply and exhale it out. And we're in the final phase here. Time to try and relax and maybe review the week. That's what we're going to try and do a lot of during this session. So I'm going to give it maybe 30 more seconds before we start going.
Sounds good. The numbers are still going up.
Yes, they are.
Thanks for joining,
so
everybody.
Excited to see how many people are signing in. And as we wait just these last few seconds, I want to say that we intend this to be an extremely interactive event, both through polling and hopefully we'll get some of you to speak up. And we're going to show a slide in a few screens from now about how you can switch over to using Zoom if you're not signing in via Zoom. Okay, some people are mentioning that they had trouble with the join meeting, so they're going through Zoom. That's perfect, because when you're joined through Zoom, I may have the opportunity to turn on your mic if you want to speak. So, yeah, you'd have to raise your hand for that to happen. We'll talk about it a bit more in a slide or two. All right. 479 and counting, but I think we should go ahead and get started because we only have a little less than an hour for this, and it's already 3 minutes into our hour. So this is the closing session in Poll-a-Palooza. The closing session for Charleston has been around as long as Charleston, but the Poll-a-Palooza started in 2014, and I need to give a shout out to Ellen Gallagher, who created the first Poll-a-Palooza session. Erin, I believe you are on in our participants. And I want to ask a favor for you or anyone who's monitoring this through the Pathable, because we cannot see the chat that's going on in Pathable. So if something comes up that needs to be said, will someone either copy and paste it here or raise their hand and speak. But with that, let's move on to introducing ourselves. Sandy's running the slide deck, so if we get out a little sync, then please forgive us. I'm Athena Hepner. I'm the Discovery Services Librarian at the University of Central Florida. Where's my drink and dog? My dog is taking a nap and my drink is in the future, but I do have coffee. And also with me is Sandy. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Avila. I'm one of Athena's co-workers or colleagues at the University of Central Florida. I'm the science librarian there, and I feel very fortunate to be here to help with the co-moderation and co-hosting of today's event. So I hope everybody's ready to have some fun.
Wonderful. Let's go ahead and start that fun. Oh, this is co-starring you, because we're going to be using Poll Everywhere to try and get some responses from everyone. Now, you can do it in two different ways. You can go to the pollev.com and then type in the Charleston conference abbreviation there, and that will get you to where you can respond. Now, there's a little complication. Normally this would be, you'd be sitting in the room and you would see the presentation up on the screen, and you would use your device to respond, and you'd see the responses live on the screen. But you may need to have two browser windows open or use your phone and text Charleston Conf to 22333. And then, yeah, I will type the URL into the chat.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. My typing is terrible, as everyone who knows me knows. So you can respond in another window or via your phone, and then Sandy is sharing her screen, which should show the real-time results as they come in. There's a little hand up icon there. That would be if you want to comment, and we really do want people to speak up, because we know that Charleston is full of people who have opinions, ideas, knowledge, and very little shyness. So please, we would love to hear your actual voice. So if you put your hand up in Zoom, I will be able to see it and hopefully open up your mic so you can speak your mind. Is everyone ready for the next slide? Oh, if you're not in Zoom already, if you're in Pathable, you can see down underneath your window that should be showing the session. If you're experiencing audio issues, use the Zoom app instead. So you can use that to open in Zoom if you want to be able to speak. All right, here is our first slide. And this was our sort of icebreaker warm up to see, make sure that everything was working, low stress, poll everywhere question. And a lot of people didn't see any cute animals.
Yeah. Athena, real quick, apparently I can't put chat to all participants, so that's why it didn't go through.
Oh no. All panelists and attendees. Here, I'll type it in.
Yeah, I don't know if that has something to do with co-host or hosting.
Oh yeah, I see you typed it in. I'm just going to copy what you typed. And panelists and all participants.
Thank you, everyone. I think everybody else is putting it in for us. Thanks.
Excellent. It's going to be in there like several times now.
I just updated my stream. We're good.
Very few people saw other animals, but we had 45% with no animals at all, and that's very, very sad. I am so sorry. We're going to have to put that on a must-have for next Charleston conference. But we got some cats and some dogs. All right, I think everyone's sort of gotten the idea. I think we should go ahead and move on to actually talking about other things about the conference. Sandy, can you move to the next slide? Excellent. All right, so we know that a lot of new people are attending the conference this year, and could you tell us if you're a first-time attendee or not? What is the Charleston conference? Who's the joker? I mean, I did put that as one of the options, but, did I copy that from you, Erin? So yeah, that's about 100% right there. 45% are new, approximately. This is like the counting the election results. It just sort of keeps shifting a little bit. But yeah, about a 45 to 55% split, 44 to 56. So let's move on to the next one. I don't want to spend too much time on these early ones, and then there'll be more substantive things that we can talk about.
Sorry, it just doesn't want to go.
There we go. Oh,
it's a little delayed.
All right. So we have had a lot of people who have come to this conference for a long time. Oh, look at all those 2 to 5 times. There is one or two Katina Stotches in the audience. Or Strotches, I'm sorry for mispronouncing that.
Don't worry.
And there is Katina. Katina, you started this conference 40 years ago. And I'm just curious, how did you foresee it going on this long and evolving the way it has?
No. I had no idea. I was in a position where I wanted to get tenure, and I had the opportunity to do a conference, and I just kept doing it, and everybody encouraged me to do it.
Wow. Well, I can say it's had such a big impact on the acquisitions, collection services, technical services side of libraries. And in the last few years, when I first started, it seemed like it really was mostly that side of the library. But in the last few years, I've seen so many people from the public services side come as well. It's really become a major conference influencing a lot of people.
I had no idea. I mean, I'm heartened though. It's great. I'm gratified.
So are we all. Like a virtual round of applause for Charleston Conference, what it's become, and for Katina for starting it. It's been amazing for me.
A lot of people have done this, not me. A ton of people have made this successful. We're lucky to have all these people like you working with us.
Well, I feel lucky to be able to be involved, and I'm sure that's true for all the other people who are speaking and organizing and volunteering and that don't have their mics open at the moment. So moving to the next slide. All right, what is your position, your role or title? Going back on to what I was just talking about with the different participants. These are going by fast, but yeah, a lot of different roles. I'm going to have to turn this into a word cloud later so it can be viewed all at once.
Got a lot of directors.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
It's an important conference for library leadership. Chair of Technical Services. So I am seeing a lot of librarians, mostly librarian responses, or library side, I should
manager,
say.
Publisher
yeah,
there.
There we go.
Kind of scrolling down through the list because it looks like you lose some of them as they.
Yeah, the slide is only showing 2 or 3 at a time. I didn't realize it was going to be quite this presentation when I chose this visual format for it. So yeah, a lot of technical services side, but other leadership and public services, data manager, very cool. So feel free to keep typing those in, but I want to move a little bit forward. How do you participate in the polls? Okay, do you see at the very top of this slide, there's its respond at pollev.com/Charleston conference. I'm going to paste that into the chat again. So if you go to that and then, oh yeah, here we go. You should be able to see the option for responding. You might want to use 2 browsers for responding. And if you want to chime in and speak about anything, just raise your hand here in the webinar and I will try and turn on your mic. I see that John has his hand up, so I'm going to allow you to talk. John Dove, do you want to say anything?
I'm still stuck on cats and dogs. I'm trying to solve.
Oh no.
I think maybe it's because I was on Firefox, so I'll try it with Chrome.
Okay. Yeah, maybe try a different browser because I do know that it's working for other people because we're seeing responses come in. All right, look at all those. We have, of course, a whole bunch from the United States and then a smattering from, there's always one from Antarctica.
Oh, no.
Always.
It's gone. Oh, no, it's down there. I see.
Yeah.
We have a couple hand raised.
Okay, there are. I don't see any hands.
It must be coming on my side.
Oh, I see. Okay. I saw it briefly and then it went away. So if you wanted your hand up, oh, here we go. Yes, here we go.
Jan Mohammed Sohu, I think was the first one.
I have allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm the first one from the Pakistan. I really love to join you. Really, very great information you shared on this conference. Thank you so much.
We're so glad that you were able to attend. Was it easier to attend? Would you have been able to attend if it had been an in-person conference?
Yeah, it was so easy. It was so informative, so easy.
Well, we're so glad that you're here. There's some middle of the ocean. Presumably they're on boats. All right. Let's move to the next slide. So this is I asked Leah to share some of her slides, and these are the international attendees are from these countries. Thank you so much for joining us and putting up with the time difference. I know that that can be extremely hard. All right, I want to pivot a little bit to talking about some of the fun social events. And it was really different this year. Of course, we're used to having the receptions and exhibits and so forth in person. This year, that really wasn't a possibility. So let's look a little bit at that. So which virtual vendors did you visit? Now, I really want to give a shout out and a thank you to all of the exhibitors and all of the sponsors. And I should have gotten that slide that lists all the sponsors, but I didn't think of grabbing it until just now. But I thought the virtual conference or the virtual exhibits really were probably much better than I could have imagined. I visited a few and chatted, and it went very smoothly for me. Do we have any statistics about how many people did go to the exhibits? I suspect there may be some slides somewhere with that.
I don't have that, Athena, in front of me. I do know we had over 80 vendors and sponsors that you could visit, but I don't know the numbers of how many people did. I can look for that, but I don't have it at my fingertips. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I didn't ask you in advance, so you know. So it looks like I don't know. There's some people that are listing a couple at a time and some people are listing one at a time. It looks like there was a good spread. A lot of people didn't get to any of them, but I know that the vendors would love to hear from you if you're interested, and I'm sure that you can find their contact information in the participants part of Passable, the people part. So let's go ahead and move on to the next poll.
Athena, real quick before I forget, the vendors are actually going to be open for a little while after the closing session. So there is a chance, if you didn't get a chance to see, if your answer was none, there's still time right after this until 5 p.m. Eastern to go by. Gosh, there's a lot of nuns coming up here too.
That is depressing. Oh,
but anyway,
the events were so fun this year. I had a lot of fun anyway. The yoga was fantastic, trivia, lots of fun. And I know some people did the virtual tours. They went, again, better than I would have predicted for a virtual conference. Does anyone want to speak up and tell us about their experience? Or should we just do some yoga stretches?
Beth Bernhardt is here. I think she did the trivia session. If you can let her speak, that I'm going to call on her because she's in the room with me.
Raised her hand.
So Judy.
Yes, I attended several events. I did the virtual yoga. I went to the graveyard in Charleston tour last night. That was really interesting. And, you know, breakfast, the library tour, you know, the Charleston Society library tour, and the museum. Just to name a few.
That's a lot. What were the high points and the tricky parts? Other than the trivia, that was tricky for its own reasons.
No, no, I had a conflict, so I had to go on the grave. You know, I had reserved for the graveyard tour. I didn't find it, you know, just having the time, you know, not getting a lot of sleep. But you know, when you're motivated, you do things. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make sure, you know, it's just, you know, time management. And it was the high point of, for example, the Charleston Library Society was that when we got walked through the preservation area where they did the binding.
Very nice.
That was super interesting.
We have a couple other people in the chat talking about a few things. So Leah asked if anybody did a signature cocktail. We have Nettie who said you wanted to pipe in?
Let's move on to the next slide because we're not done with the social events questions. But go ahead and, I didn't mean to cut you off, Sandy. I just wanted, seems how this is exactly what she was asking about.
Yeah, so as you're filling in this, whether you did a reception cocktail or not, we have some other people discussing or sharing their yoga helped. The happy hour for first-time attendees was a lot of fun. Trivia was very fun. The happy hours and trivia were great. After trivia, wish we could continue to mingle, was almost like doing it in person. I agree. I was in the trivia and I thought it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Charleston team. It was a great informative conference. Some more, I did the cocktails and mixed one up at my bar while folks were watching. That's great.
Yeah, that was a really good, that was a fun moment for me. I watched that.
Oh, cool. We have some other people. I'm sorry I'm not putting everybody's names, they're coming in so quick. I didn't have all the ingredients to make the cocktail, but I love the idea of it. And I did have a glass of wine during trivia. Ghost tour was awesome. My back really appreciated the yoga. Those are just some of the chats.
It looks like most people opted for the adventures of Sherbert Holmes if they made one of the cocktails. I was a Brave New Swirl gal myself, with some modifications. All right, let's move on because we have a lot of slides and a lot of topics. So here's some more interesting stats that Leah provided for us. Lots of chats and private messages and meetings and 173 sessions. Charleston Conference has been for the last many years. Very full conference with lots of options for what to attend, and this year was no exception. Lots of polls were created and 15 social networking events. Leah, do you want to say anything about this slide? You don't have to. But.
I think I just love pulling. I'm always interested in seeing these numbers. I think the private messages, you know, people really took advantage of that option within Pathable, and private meetings were a helpful way to just touch base. You know, you don't get to walk down the hallway and run into somebody and grab a cup of coffee together, but you can at least chat and talk to one another through private meetings scheduled. So I think that was a fun way to connect with people and make it a little more personable than just looking at a screen and watching slides go by all day. But yeah, I thought it was just interesting. Happy to share.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to the actual sessions. So this was a photo I grabbed from a 2008 newsletter about this conference that year, and this is what the sessions normally might look like. A lot of people in a room together in beautiful spaces, but this year it was all virtual. And let's move on to the next slide. What was your favorite session or session type? I know there was a lot to choose from. Long arm of the law. That is always such a good one. Though it was a bit of a bittersweet one for a lot of us this time, because Bill, of course, was not able to be part of it. But yeah, keynotes. The keynotes were inspiring and amazing this year, I felt, and humbling. I feel like there's so much more that we need to do to be graceful in our response to some of the issues, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in some of our other slides. But
I see zombies in there too.
I didn't see a zombie one. I feel like I really missed out.
Right.
Does anyone want to talk about their favorite, or what they really took away from some of these sessions? I'm watching for raised hands. Question from the chat: will all of the talks be posted? I know that they were recorded.
There were a few that were, things like social events, tours, those sort of things weren't recorded. And there were a few sessions that were set up as meetings instead of webinars. And if they used breakout rooms, none of that would be captured. But all of the presentations that were webinars, which is the majority of the content, will be posted through Pathable, and it'll be available for 1 year through the Pathable platform. And then after that, we'll make everything available on the conference website.
And Lisa, you had your hand up. You're still muted though, Lisa. You have to unmute yourself. Okay, so while we wait to see if Lisa decides to chime in, let's go ahead and move on to the next poll. Oh, Lisa, great. It's all you. Okay, Lisa, we cannot hear you, so we're going to go ahead and say, what is the hottest buzzword of Charleston 2020? A lot of COVID, which is not surprising. CDL, and I don't know if that's for California Digital Library or if it's some other three-letter acronym in this case.
Controlled digital lending, perhaps.
Oh, control. Okay, controlled digital lending. Oh, this has gotten tiny.
We still have COVID and CDL.
Yep.
Open, pandemic.
So I'm going to read one of the chats that has come in. I had an experience 2 weeks ago with a platform called Spatial Chat. It was amazing. Recreated what is best about a drinks reception. Your avatar could wander just the way one might in person and approach small groups of people to join their conversation. Yeah, I've seen a couple of platforms like that too. One that's called Something Town. Oh, I always mess it up. But do you remember, Sandy, what it's called? Something Town.
No, I knew you were going to ask me. I'm like, oh, I don't remember because you were playing around with it. But yes,
Yeah.
having those avatars.
Gather
Cool.
Town. Thank you, John. Yeah. It is a cool new way to do things, and maybe in future virtual conferences we'll be doing more of that. Well, this has gotten a little bit small to see, unfortunately. I don't know why it's decided that it has to use this tiny font, but COVID, open, and CDL are very readable still. Pandemic, access, lending, digital. So
Race is sticking out too to me. The word
which one?
race.
Race, yeah.
Race.
Let's go ahead and compare this to what came in previous years. So 2019, transformative, open, big deals, cats. So you can see it was really a very, very different dialogue. And transformative, it's probably in the previous slide somewhere, but I didn't notice it come in. Yeah. And then 2014, the first time this was done, data was a big topic. And look how few words. It must have been a small Poll-a-Palooza, but it's really grown since then. So MacGyvered, I loved that one. I kind of, yeah. Oh, let me do, hi, Erin. Allow to talk. Go ahead.
Hi, Athena and Sandy and everybody else. I had to jump in on this one because the 2014 Poll-a-Palooza was in one of the giant ballrooms in the Francis Marion, and I think there were maybe 14 people there.
Yeah.
So that's why we have such a small little word cloud for 2014, but really huge shout out to those diehard 14 people who showed up to my first ever Poll-a-Palooza, and MacGyvered was definitely a winner as far as buzzwords go.
Yeah, that's a great buzzword. I really wonder what inspired it. Yeah. Okay, so now getting a little bit more serious. How has your library responded to the pandemic? If you want to raise your hand and tell us about the work involved and some of the outcomes, we'd love to hear it. Work from home, curbside pickup, memes and gifts on MS Teams. Yes, remote work, huge workload, closed all the ebooks. And it seems to have stopped. I'm not seeing any more coming along. Something's weird. There we go. Virtual
I think my computer might be delayed.
Telework.
Oh, they're coming down at the bottom.
Digital. You know, I'm danged well. One thing that I'm not seeing, which is great, but I'm a little surprised, is budget cuts. I know that our library in part is responding by we're having to reduce subscriptions. Yeah, virtual therapy pets, increased online instruction, contactless pickup. I love danged well.
Huge workload. Yes, I
Yes.
agree.
Zoom, so much Zoom. I'm so amazed that we all persisted through this conference so much. I know I attended a lot more sessions this conference than the previous Zoom-based conferences that I've been to, because it really kind of felt like an actual conference for me. Whereas a lot of the other ones, it felt like a series of Zoom meetings that I had to attend to, but no one was taking attendance. So if I didn't have to, or if it wasn't a really intriguing session, I might skip out. But Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. Work from home, work from home. All right. And then a chat, I've argued we can't cut the collection budget just as everyone moves to online access. And that is a strong argument in my opinion. Let's go ahead and move on because we have so many more topics to talk about. And I think I don't want to spend too much time, particularly no one raised their hands here. So
It is stalling on me. I think I'm pressing it 5 times. Yeah.
Says, no, you will stay on this slide.
Yes, it must like it.
Emojis, ticketing queue, no print birds.
Hold on, everybody. We'll see if it continues.
Work from home. Here, John has, John, I believe that you are able to unmute yourself.
Yes, I can. I think. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great.
See, now it's going all the way to the end.
Yeah, no, one thing I learned that I'm going to use again and again going forward was a comment from Brewster Kale at a breakfast meeting yesterday, in which he said, you know, we're all homeschooling about what it means to work in this virtual world.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
I'm going to start off any meeting I have with, well, you know, just watch me. I'm still learning.
Yes. And it's been, we've all been learning very, very quickly what it's like to work from home and work in a virtual world. And so the next question is up, and are face-to-face interactions gone for good? That was, I took that question basically based on a session that I did not get to attend. So if someone did attend that question and wants to speak up, it was, are face-to-face sales interactions gone for good or something like that? And I thought it was an intriguing question. How much has our world changed for good? And what will interactions be like in the future? I'm just going to keep talking for a second until someone raises their hands. I know at University of Central Florida, we have tried to maintain our reference service. And one of the ways we've done it is by having a Zoom-based reference desk. So people can walk up and they see a computer there, and there's a monitor that shows the librarian who's on the desk, and then there's an open mic so the person can talk with the librarian and ask questions, but there's no physical keyboard or mouse or anything. It's all done via Zoom. And it's been an interesting experiment, but honestly, on the times that I've been on desk, I haven't got any real questions. The Ask a Librarian chat is extremely busy, but the Zoom interactions, not so much.
I'll chime in there really quick before, and I think we have someone, Brian has his hand up, but
oh, I don't see
it.
That
whole, you know, Zoom thing on reference called telereference. And I think it depends on who's on and what time of day, because I know there's about 3 or 4 of us in our past meetings that have said some of the questions that have come up. So it just depends on who's in the building. Obviously, we don't have as many students right now, but the service at least has been very robust and useful to a lot of people who have come in who've had those reference questions that you couldn't do in just a regular Ask a Librarian service.
So I don't see the hand up, which is very...
It was Brian, I forgot his last name. Brian, do you want to put your hand up again? Or unmute? Or now we have Shelly Schmucker. who was raised her hand?
I am not seeing the hands go up, which you can do it, Sandy. Can you allow them, just if you hover over them, and then you'll give them the option to allow to talk, because for some reason I'm not seeing the hands going up.
Shelley, you want to go ahead? I've unmuted Shelley.
So Shelley is allowed to unmute if you want to talk. Did anyone see that? Are the face-to-face interactions gone? Because I was not able to attend that one. There are 458 sessions currently in the session, or people in the session. All right. Are there two different hands on the platforms? Yes, the hands on the Passable platform I can't see. So if you do want to speak, you do need to join the Zoom.
And it doesn't seem to allow me to add, it just says ask to unmute Shelley, and it won't let me actually unmute her.
That's fine. If Shelley wants to speak, she'll need to unmute herself. So I think we should go ahead and move to the next question.
I was just going to chime in on the number of people in the room also. There's 458 just in the Zoom, but in the combination of Pathable and Zoom, we have 848 people here.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Wow. Congratulations to Charleston this year. Did your organization rely on OA and OER more in 2020 than in the past? Yeah, and I am not surprised to see that there's none that are relying less, and it looks like about close to 45% relying more or a lot more, and changing, of course.
So see, even though in some cases, you know, the pandemic has hit us, still some of our services have been the same in regards to, you know, open access and OER use, which is good.
I'd be curious to hear from people about the level of work it has been to try and deal with all the OA and OER, particularly the, I know there's an acronym for it that I have now forgotten, all of the things that are open during the pandemic response, but are going to be licensed once the pandemic is over. You have to switch to a licensed access. Okay, someone's got their hand up, and I'm going to allow you to unmute.
Toby Contry.
Yeah, you should be able to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to say at my university, we were so overwhelmed by the number of resources that unlocked, and we just took a moment to look at the amount of work that would be involved in unlocking them, making them available, and then locking them back down and managing patron expectations. And we made a decision not to unlock everything. We just basically said, if people get on the platforms and find them, great, but we're not gonna flood our catalog with things that are only gonna be available for a short period of time.
Did other people have a similar response at their institutions?
Chat saying, yep, same here, good decision, same here, Kobe.
I know at the University of Central Florida, I'm gonna unmute or allow to talk for Chris Ferguson.
We made a similar decision not to add them to our catalog for much the same reason, and that managing those would have been really kind of beastly. We did list them in a LibGuide, so we made the decision to make them more visible in that we put them in a LibGuide and link to that LibGuide from our homepage. The other thing we did is we would send out newsletters to our faculty saying these resources are being made available. So we do a weekly SMORE newsletter to our faculty anyway. And so we did a couple of newsletters saying these are resources that have been made available for the duration of the pandemic. and then updated that periodically. So we tried to communicate with faculty about new resources that were available, but for our own long-term management, we also did not add those to our catalog.
That's similar to what we did. We decided to list things on a LibGuide. We did not add records to our catalog because our catalog situation, we are in the middle of an ILS migration. Our old catalog cannot quickly or smoothly pull things in and out very easily. And we also decided to only list things on the LibGuide that were related to things we already have, because we didn't want to raise expectations that we might add brand new content from brand new vendors. So if it was an expansion on stuff that we've licensed, we went ahead and listed it, but there was a lot we didn't list.
Can I just progress the slides to the same question from last year?
Yes.
Oh, no, hold on. Not wanting to advance.
Oh, this is not the same question from last year, but I think
Yes.
that, yeah, that's cool.
I'm jumping ahead to 2021. See, I want 2020 to be gone. Who's with me?
Amen.
Boring, the future,
Yes.
vital, more the future.
Overrated.
Overrated. Growing. It's an interesting set of responses. Gaining steam. Here to stay at the front of everyone's mind. Now, this is a repeat question from last year, and we're not going to show it quite yet, but we will show the responses from last year. I think it is fascinating to see how our relationship and thinking about open access has evolved. I did not dig into the distant past to see if Erin had a question about this in 2014 or the other Poll-a-Paloozas. No longer required, interesting. On the verge of being sustainable. Continues to be here to stay. Highly influenced. More essential. All right, there's Erin has her hand up. Go ahead, Erin.
Hey, Athena. So I did actually ask this question. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, and it's because for a few Poll-a-Paloozas, open access was just everywhere. It was the #1 thing on all of our brains and on all of our tongues. And so I think I asked this question last year, and it got a lot of responses where people were like, all right, we're kind of over it, talking about it constantly.
Right.
But that was last November, and look where we are this November.
Right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. I know answers are still scrolling on here, but this was the response set from 2019. So a different set of responses. I did not see transformative roll by again. I think that the dialogue for the transformative agreements, I think that the COVID-19 response sort of just took the air out of that. I expect it will be back. But yeah.
See the word complicated, problem, expensive.
Expensive. And a lot of essential this year and last year. And I don't see the future. It must be on here. There was a lot of the future this time.
Yeah,
oh, there it is. Thank you, Sandy. It's vertical, so my eye didn't catch it. So that some changes from last year, but some concepts and perceptions of it remained the same. It didn't seem like it was as much of a topic in the sessions this year as last year. So maybe it's because we had so many other important things that kind of took up some of the space. Speaking of which, let's move on.
Getting ahead of me.
There we go. At this point, oh wait. At this point, big deals are. You're doing fine.
The internet's not cooperating. I blame it.
Oh wow. Over
No,
impossible dinosaurs, big and expensive, annoying. I expect there's more responses rolling in. Suddenly I'm seeing us. Could you hide us in your slide view, Sandy?
Yeah, it doesn't even let me hover.
Wow. I think something has gone awry. We'll just have to put up with it if we have to.
Can you see the slide?
I can see the slide, but I also see the view, the gallery view of the speakers. So if you can minimize that, it will help.
Yeah, it's just scrolling.
And chat is also hovering over part of the slide.
So weird.
I think it's a
There you go.
bit,
Does that help?
fantastic. Yes.
Okay.
More expensive. I will also turn this into a word cloud for future, but time to be unbundled, facing a real backlash, annoying, going to go away. I think we got the basic picture. Let's move on to the next one. Feel free to raise your hand if you want to say something in person negative about big deals. So did your organization unbundle? And I can say, while these are rolling in, University of Central Florida, and I think I can speak for most of the universities in Florida, we are having to unbundle some big deals this year because we just can't afford it anymore. This year with budget cuts, it's not possible to keep them all.
Some still don't know. We've got 14%.
Yeah.
Still
That
pretty
doesn't
high,
surprise me.
questionable.
Oh, yeah. And there's some people that may not be in the conversations at their library. It could be that the conversations are still happening with the folks who manage the licenses and subscriptions and haven't expanded to the public services yet. And I still don't see any hands raised on this one. So we'll assume that people are content to not say anything out loud about their big deals. So preprints and other forms of open access. I'm curious what people are saying or thinking about them. Complicated, annoying, hard. I did use the word cloud for this one, which is always fun to watch it reconfigure. Evolving.
One too, so it's kind of weird.
Confusing. Pain.
Hard.
Problems. Concept probably had another word that went with it. Redundant. Oh, it's getting tiny again. Murky, metadata, thing. There had to be another word with thing. So word clouds are cool, but they do have their problems. Disappointed, applicable, rapid. Well, this is getting harder and harder to read. I apologize for my presentation choice here. Does anyone have anything they'd like to chime in about with their experience with preprints, their use of preprint servers? Do you encourage your faculty to use them, or is it pretty much if they know about them, they use them on their own? Are you getting preprints in your institutional repository? What would be required to make these actual useful? Well, I shouldn't say actual useful because they already are, but a more important part of how people are accessing the content. I'm still not seeing any raised hands, so I think we should go ahead and move on. We have a few more concepts to talk about here. So, how did your library react to the Black Lives Matter movement and respond to the George Floyd killings? Obviously, it was an important topic this year, and both of the keynotes were really excellent, talking about what's going on in the library world and in the world in general, institutions. Yeah, so I made a bad choice again. Oh man, I can't really read this.
LibGuy, dialogue, statement, discussion. reading.
Yeah. Statement is staying quite large. Dialogue, discussion, diversity, coming media, committees, racism. I would love to see some raised hands here because I think we have a lot to say about this. And I know that we have questions. Are we doing anything? Are we doing enough? We had some meetings dedicated to talking about diversity, and we did a couple of programs where we could sign up and watch the what was the series, the Martin Luther King series? Sandy, do you remember?
Put me on the spot again.
I know,
it's too late
I
on a
know.
Friday. No, I don't
Yes.
remember, but they were not the Eyes on the Prize, which
It
were
was,
those
yeah,
original.
there was something in America, the Martin Luther
Post
King.
Martin Luther King.
Sarah Norris raised her hand. She had a
Thank
comment.
you, Sarah. Yes, please do.
Still
She's
I
got a great
rise.
memory.
Yeah.
Still I rise. Yes.
Yeah, it's the MLK and Still I
Thank
Rise.
you, Sarah, for the
through PBS.
reminder.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, those we did like a 2-part series where all of the library staff, not just the librarians, were able to register and sign up for that. So it was a great dialogue discussion. We didn't have any statements that came out of it, but you know, statement is still the biggest word here we have in the word cloud, which means there must be a lot of people. Anybody want to talk about that or share?
I think everyone is winding down. Here we go. Christina, you can unmute yourself.
Hello. So I'm at UNLV and we are sorry, I have a sick dog in my lap. We're evaluating our hiring practices to make them more inclusive, as well as our tenure track process. And we are having a series that we partnered with our journalism school called We Need to Talk, where we're talking about tough topics around racism and anti-racism on campus and in our local Las Vegas community.
That's pretty cool. I know our university just yesterday or the day before, I received an email. They're looking for proposals for projects around equality and equity. So I don't know what criteria exactly they're looking for to evaluate those projects proposals, but I see that there's an institution-wide effort to do something more. Is anyone evaluating their collections or other services or things around the Black Lives, or the whole equality, diversity, and being proactive? I see Linda, you have your hand up and I've clicked allow to talk.
Oh, hi. Yeah, we're doing a whole equity, diversity, and inclusion collection assessment and transformation. So
wonderful. One more comment I want to make, a shout out to someone who's not attending. Jean Piasek at the University of Central Florida was part of an effort to, this was pre the George Floyd killing, but part of an effort to change the subject headings about the Library of Congress official subject headings from illegal immigrant to, I think, undocumented immigrant. And there's got to be some catalogers on who will correct me because I don't think I got exactly the right terms. But I think there's some really interesting efforts going on right now to try and make our collections, our descriptions, and our services and everything about the libraries more inclusive, more diverse, and remove some of the systematic and unintentional racism and exclusionism that can be built into our organizations just because the culture has changed and improved in these areas. We need to move forward and make sure that all the aspects of the libraries also change and improve. So that's my very ineloquent, stumbly statement on that.
Athena, I am sorry to let you know, it looks like we have been we've been cut off because the session was scheduled to end at 3:15, and at 10 minutes after it
Oh
cut us off
no.
automatically. So the folks that are in Zoom, I believe, can still hear and see us, but the folks that joined on Pathable have been kicked out.
I'm so sorry. I was thinking it was till 3:30 mentally, so I just kept on rambling on. We were close to the end, and I'm gonna just power forward for the people who still want to stay on. I apologize. So where do we go from here? The theme of the conference. Let's go ahead and move on quickly. Oh, I think we skipped a few slides, but okay.
I just went back one.
Okay, I guess this is the last one. All right, so I was only one slide short. Either that or I put that other slide in the wrong spot.
We'll find out in a second when we go to the next one. Thanks for staying with us, everybody.
Yes, I apologize for running over. I didn't have the right end time in mind. And you all have been wonderful. Appreciate everyone coming to this closing session, and thank you to Katina and Leah and all the people who have organized the conference, and to the vendors who sponsored and participated. And hopefully next year we can do a lot of this in person.
Yes, thank you. It's been a great week, and I appreciate everybody who put in the time to, especially the presenters that had to learn how to use Pathable, and the vendors that were putting together their booths. You know, that takes a lot of prep on the back end. And so I appreciate all the hard work that went into that. And our team here, Don Lewis and John Williams are still in the room with me over there. I really appreciate all their hard work in making the magic happen behind the scenes. So thanks, and we really hope that we'll see everyone in Charleston, if not next year, sometime really soon.
You know, I think we should have at least one more slide that was asking about what's the buzzword. So let's see if we can find that slide. So the remaining 186 participants. Let's skip this one. And
ideas for next year's conference.
It's the buzzword one, though. We have to have it because it's asked every year. Yeah, the hottest topic. What's going to be the hottest topic next year?
Surviving. Hybrid.
It would be a shame to not have this in the deck for next year, because it's been asked every Palooza, I believe.
Budget cuts.
Recovery. Yeah, returning to normal, nothing. Oh, that must have been paired with something else. Budget cuts, post-COVID. Normal. Yeah, and it's getting too small again, but post-pandemic. Deaccessioning. Rebuilding. So a lot of things basically focused on getting past this year and getting to a normal year. Okay. And with that, I think we really probably should try and wrap up. I appreciate everything.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Don't forget the vendor showcase is still open till 5, but that's it for presentations. Thank you, Athena and Sandy, for putting this together.
Thank you for putting up with us. Yes, thank you, Katina.
Thank you all very much.
Stay safe, everyone. Be well.